Right, good evening and welcome to this, the first race of our Endurance Summer Cup here at Racing Pals for 2024. This is something a little bit different. For the summer season of racing. Apologies, I was trying to mute something in the background I realised I'd left on. Anyway, for the summer series 2024, we have taken a step back from our more usual once a month style 4-hour or 6-hour endurance races. And we are hosting a 4-race endurance cup and short form endurances of between around 90 to a couple of hours maximum, starting with this, the 100 minutes of Silverstone. I have to apologise, my internet seems to be cutting out a little bit. I have tried to restart and solve the issue. You see it returns to the pit lane. I'm hoping that won't be too much of an issue for too much longer. I'm trying to solve the issue and have tried, but hopefully we'll be able to watch a nice clean race. So for this season, if you're familiar with our previous seasons of racing in AC, ACC and elsewhere, you will know that we tend to put on some nice races with a stream and stewarding. And our endurance races are usually stewarded live, but for this series there will be post-race stewarding, which may mean things will change post-race. But it's a nice thing just to, over the summer, have a nice cooling off period whilst everyone is very hot and bothered, particularly after the heat of the last few days. So at the moment, who do we have on track? Well, a familiar face in Martin Kovac in a Castrol Honda racing car, currently leading the pack, somewhere where he is particularly used to having been, although he did not eventually manage to win out of the RP series that ended 2 weeks ago. And said that honour going to Robin Moe, who sadly is not on the grid for this race. Thomas Jack also returning in the new-ish, not so new anymore, Ford Mustang. In a very classic default livery Mustang. And he'll certainly be looking to take the fight to Kovac, who currently resides in P1. Who else do we have joining us? Maurice Schwander in a Porsche. There's a couple of Porsches on the grid, as there usually are for a race in ACC. We'll have to see. Driver currently sitting P3 with a 59 seconds and 1 minute on the board. We shall have to see what this newish driver can take to our regular two at the top of the table at the moment, as we see some very advanced weaving going on down the Wellington Straight. Ralph Holzhauser pulls into the pit lane. Another Porsche, the glorious racing Porsche, driven by presumably the German driver. Pascal Tanner is someone whose name I have come across before, at least I believe so, and appears to be the teammate of Holzhauser in another glorious racing Porsche 911. Victor Borlin, meanwhile, the Swedish driver, comes with a lovely chrome-coloured McLaren. Is chrome really a colour? That's now going to raise that question in my head. But the chrome McLaren, he takes it quite nicely through turn 1 of the regular F1 circuit that is Abbey, which on this track is not turn 1, and I do not know or care to count what turn exactly it would be numbered. Nikita Ignatev then in another McLaren, currently sitting P7 with a lap time of 2 minutes 0.6, or 2 minutes flat 0.615. Again, we'll have to see how some of these drivers who are new to racing fouls do over the course of the next 100 minutes and the next 4 races after that. Free practice is officially over. I'll have a quick run through the rest of our grid. Todd Curtis returns once again in a Porsche. I don't think I've ever seen him drive anything else but the fender bender car. Hopefully won't put too much emphasis on that name in its performance here today. Yaret Apophis. I should know Apophis because Egyptian gods and all that. But Yaret Apophis, I hope I'm pronouncing that first part of correctly. Another McLaren driver that I have not seen before in the 666 car, which I believe is the same livery that is being run by Victor Borlin. Yes, it is. So that's quite an amusing sight to see. And now we move on to qualifying. So quickly, just to run through the order, and this, I apologise for this internet issue. I'm not sure what is happening. I've tried to restart routers and sort things out, but sadly it does not appear to be stable. I might try one last thing, see if that works. As we go to qualifying, we have 20 minutes of qualifying, followed by 100 minutes of racing. And I'm going to try one last thing to fix this issue. I will be back shortly. I'm going to see if I can leave the auto cam on, and I'll be back as soon as I possibly can be. Hopefully with improved internet. Right, I have returned. Unfortunately, from the looks of what I can see on the monitor whilst I was trying to fix things, it has not necessarily fixed it, so I'm going to quickly take a second, hopefully refresh the server, and maybe that will kick something into gear. As you see, Anders take a big spin through Abbey. Give me 2 seconds. Hopefully we can solve any problems. Although actually it looks like it might be stable. Never mind. 2 seconds. Right, I'm just restarting ATC. I hope this will work. If not, again, apologies. There's not really much I can do about it right now. With the internet problems of the last few days, I think we should just be all glad that it's just a little bit of a issue with a server connection, which at least we can still watch the race. Also, every time I stream, I feel like breaking news hits me in the middle of it. So for those who don't know, apparently Joe Biden is stepping down from the election campaign. I would say discuss that in the chat, but you know, chats get over things like that. Right, I am rejoining the server. Let's hopefully we might have a better time of it. Switch to broadcasting. Right. Qualifying. So 13 minutes have gone as I've been trying to sort out internet connections issues. I will turn the sound on so you can hear the cars, because that helps. And Kovac currently in the lead, much like we saw in the practice session, although it's a little bit wetter here than it was in that half practice session that was dry. The first half was wet before a server restart to fix some entry-less issues. And Thomas Jack, currently sitting in the pit lane, P2. Victor Borden, meanwhile, sort of sat on a very awkward position. I think that was on the exit of Cops. But currently P3 in the 59s. There are 7 cars at the moment, all in the 59s. Sorry, I make that. There are 5 cars in the 59s, 2 cars in the 58s. Martin Kovac's fastest time, if I can remember the key, there it is, you can see, is a 58.247. Now that is an extraordinarily quick time, but only 4 tenths behind him is Thomas Jack in the Ford Mustang. The Ford, however, does not particularly, as far as I have been informed by people, like driving in the wet weather. Now I say as far as I've been informed by people because I actually quite enjoyed it in wet, but I can be very odd. Now, again, those 2 cars, the Morris Schwandner car, Schwandner? Yeah, that'll do. And the Holzhauser Glorious Racing car are P4 and P5. Someone who I didn't see in the practice is Stanislav Krokmaliuk. I hope that is correct again. The Ukrainian flag driver in the Scuderia Ferrari, who currently sits P6, and the last in the 59s is Pascal Tanner, the second Glorious Racing car, who has on the board a 59.942. First out of the sub 2 minutes is Todd Curtis, who comes to a very slow stop just in the middle of the Vale chicane there. And he currently sits P8. Now, as I've been interrupted by trying to fix issues, which seem to be going quite nicely now. Again, Michael Steinbeck in the TF Sport Aston Martin. Who else have we not looked at yet? Tino Gunkel is in a very nice Mark Racing Ferrari. We've seen Mark Racing with us and Tino before. It's good to have him back. We mentioned Nikita Ignatev in practice. Daniel Scott in a very, very traditional Sky Tempesta Racing McLaren, currently holding P13 with a 2:01.315, sorry, and that is only 5 thousandths of a second behind Ignatev, who is himself only 5 thousandths of a second behind Gunkel. The cars are spread between 2:01.305 and 2:01.315. That is an impressively close battle for P11 in qualifying for the moment, and with Daniel Scott's delta currently positive after the first corner, I'm not sure he will be beating that this time around. Now, obviously, I haven't been keeping too much of an eye on the session settings and the weather, but it does look like it'll be drying out now, so perhaps we will see some faster lap times. But I think, actually no, I know, judging by those, the fastest laps have probably already been set, and we probably are looking at the grid order as the fastest lap is definitely a dry time from Martin Kovac. Now, Dave Petzold. Now here we get it, because from my end it looks like this is Tobias Wenging, but it's not. It's Dave Petzold. Why is that, you might be asking? Well, as I was saying, this is an endurance cup. Now, in our endurance races, we usually allow teams of drivers, so why would this be any different? So, as you can see, some of our drivers have teamed up with partners, and they will do a driver swap halfway, I assume, through this race distance. You can also see the LFM BOP on the right hand side. The only car which hasn't got an LFM BOP is the Lexus, because the LFM simply haven't bopped it, because no one really drives it over there apparently. However, some of our drivers, one in particular, who sadly could not make the race today at last minute, is a massive fan, of the Lexus, and so we have included it. I'm not sure what its BOP would have been here, but it would have been something that had been worked up by our series directors for this race. The other thing to note for anyone who is perhaps going to be or wants to be signed up for this series, you can join our Discord, you can join us on our SimGrid at Racing Pals, sign up for the series after this race is finished and registration reopens. And the thing to note is, if you don't think that you and both of your drivers can make all the races, if you have a team of more than one driver, you can have a team of 6 or 7 drivers. Teams are allowed to shape their driver lineup as and when they want to per race. So you could have a one-man car for, say, the 96 minutes of Bathurst that's coming up, and then have a 2-man car for the 2.4 hours of Nordschleife that we are finishing the series with. However, you cannot have more than 2 drivers in a single race session, but the teams are flexible. So that is why we have, for example, in the number 95 Aston Martin is Steinbeck and Angstman, 2 drivers returning that we have seen before, and that Ignatev car that I have mentioned, a new driver, is joined by a Rybalkin, I believe. I'm going to get in so much trouble for all these pronunciations I am messing up. But then it wouldn't be commentary if we didn't. We've got Henning and Willendorf in the Porsche 992, a 232 car, down in 15th place. So it will be interesting to see how drivers split up their time and how the teams perhaps change throughout the course of this season. As I have said, the weather may be drying, but it's still wet and the rain is still coming down, and these times, which are very clearly set on dry laps, will not be beaten. Certainly not. For example, Robin Moe, who has joined. Sorry, I thought Robin Moe wasn't in it. He is teammate with Victor Borlin in the number 3 McLaren. He is already coming up to Stowe. His delta says plus 32, although actually I think this is a lap after an aborted return to pits. Right, it appears that everything, from what I can see, is now working internet-wise. It seems to have cleared up. So hopefully we shall be able to have a nice, clean viewing experience for the race as qualifying comes to the checkered flag. And we wait for the last drivers still on laps to finish their laps. Starting with the number 31 car, Daniel Scott, although as you can see from the map he was blue flagged, as did Robin Moe. The last car that should come across the line to finish is the 95, currently driven by Steinbeck in P10. The really impressive thing here is that 10,000th difference between Gunkel, Ignatiev and Scott is going to remain due to the wet nature of the track at the moment, and that is some very close results for them. So there we have it. I'll turn to garage because this can be a funny thing, but here you have your starting grid, and we are starting, I go up to Kovac, on a dry little track. Currently only fast though, that'll be because the wet weather has dried and there's been no running. It's going to be a fast track for the race start. How quickly that gets up to optimum, I am not sure. But with 20 cars on the track, it shouldn't take too long. The temperatures are reasonably warm, 28 degrees. A track temp of 36 degrees Celsius. So as we wait for the session to start, let's run through our starting order. So Martin Kovac took the lead in qualifying and takes pole position for the start of this race, followed very closely by Thomas Jack in P2. The Ford Mustang, the small hype beast car, team car. It's a variation on the traditional Thomas Jack team name of Small Peepee, which sadly does not appear to have returned for this series. Well, actually, I think it has, because I think he's officially registered on SimGrid as Small PP Hype Beast, but we shall sadly miss it in the stream itself. Optimum Motorsports then being run by Robin Moe and Victor Borlin, and according to this, Robin Moe will be taking a race start. As you may be aware, once you're in the race start situation, you cannot swap driver until a pit stop. You have to make sure you have swapped your driver to the race starting driver before the session opens, or before the race session begins. Then we have in P4 the 911 car of Morris Schwadner, and Nathan Cartwright is his teammate, followed by the 84 Porsche of Ralph Holzhauer and Pascal Rutter. Stanislav Krok-Maliuk then takes P6 in the 1-2-3 Ferrari. Solo he will be. Pascal Tanner and Antov Inhoffner then in P7 with the 3-2-3 Porsche, followed by Todd Curtis in the number 90 Porsche as well. Iaret Apophis is then 9th in the number 666 McLaren. And I'm going to turn off, because if you heard that, don't worry, you are not hearing your Discord. It's my Discord. I need to disable notification sounds, as I was too busy trying to sort internet out to remember to do so. As we get about to go under the formation lap, if I can speak properly for once. Michael Steinbeck and Morten Christian Angsman are in the 95 TF Sport Aston Martin, 2 returning drivers, followed by another returning duo, Tino Gunkel and Ralph Catern. I believe both have driven with us before, although I don't know if they've ever driven in the same team, but that's the number 70 Mark Racing Ferrari. Nikita Ignatiev then is with Taras Rabalkin, as I have said, followed by Daniel Scott And then Dave Petzold and Thorsten Wenning take P14 in the 18 Porsche. Ramon Willendorf and Dennis Henning then are in the 232 Porsche in 50, followed by Yevhen Artemenko, another returning driver. There's someone who clearly failed to get off the grid for the formation start. Or is he? He is dropping back, and I'm not quite sure why. Hopefully he gets going again shortly. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Anders Sorensen then is in the 75 Ferrari with Niels Holm as his second driver. Anatoly Buryakovsky and Alexander Kuchin are in the 77 BMW in 18, followed by Alexander Karge or Karg, I'm never sure, in the Force Austria Hoonigan team Ford Mustang. I love that name. Followed then by our P20 and last man on the grid in the Bentley is Leon Wessels, the Dutch flagged driver in the 83 Bentley, who sadly I don't believe got a lap in qualifying, possibly due to the wet weather coming at an unfortunate moment for them. But we shall have to see how many places they can make up. The QRT Esports driver certainly has shown some pace in his RP series entries, and as have other QRT teammates. I think that's someone dropping back. One of the McLarens is Victor Moe and Robin Borlin. Victor Moe and Robin Borlin, yes, I just said that. Robin Moe and Victor Borlin, and that is concerning, as I know Robin is in the car, and Robin has had recently issues with equipment, and I'm worried that those issues have come back to bite them. Either that, or perhaps they've just put in the wrong fuel load and have decided to take a pit lane start to fix their setup as Robin Moe leaves the race session. We are currently down to 19 cars. I'm not sure what has happened there. That is an unfortunate, because that is a competitor car, and Robin Moe is back and in the pit lane. I think he must have had some technical issues. Hopefully he has fixed them and will be ready and back to race after the timer counts down for them to take their pit lane start. Right, let's have a look. Our race leader, you can see flashing his lights in the digital mirror, is Thomas Jack as Martin Kovac prepares. They go side by side to take the race start signal, come through Brooklands and then Luffield afterwards to take to the start finish, the old pit straight as it is often known, where GT3s have always taken their starts, where F1 used to take its starts many years ago. Robin Moe still marked as P3, but in the pit lane. It'll be a race down to Copse, a corner that we certainly in motorsports have a lot of experience of and have done for a couple of years now, since a certain incident which will go not unmentioned. I kind of mentioned it already, but less mentioned, as we come to the green flag. It's not that line, it's this one, and they're off here at Silverstone for 100 minutes of GT3 racing. Kovac gets away incredibly well. I don't see any contacts down the order, and that is Thomas Jack just struggling to keep up with the pace of that Honda out of Copse. Well, Robin Moe comes out of the pit lane down in P20. Let's have a look. Any battles developing very early. Artemenko, there's a big crash. I'll have to go back and see what happened there as I catch it. Artemenko is round. I'm not sure who that other car is, as the order sorts itself out on my timing tower. That is the 80 car of Dave Petzold. We'll go back and look at that in a minute. You can see Apophis now right behind Pascal Tanner battling for what is P6. He has gained a place from Todd Curtis somewhere. No, sorry, Todd Curtis has gained a place from him. And Todd Curtis now, sorry, is back on the back of Pascal Tanner. Porsche versus Porsche. As he runs wide out of Abbey. Hopefully he manages to get it back onto the track without any major issue. But then that is going to allow Apophis a chance, as he's also going to run a little bit wide through Farm as he comes through the loop now and up to Aintree. There's another car off. Not sure who that was. Steinbeck again, possibly with damage from that initial collision. And there's Daniel Scott. I think they may have come together also. As Anatoly here coming through Brooklands, battling away with Alexander Karga and his monster Mustang. The American flag painted proudly on the front of it, although I do love this McDonald's livery. BMW. It makes me think of Bubba Wallace in NASCAR when he runs it, when he has been running recently, the McDonald's livery. Leon Wessels, meanwhile, up ahead, possibly making his way through the field. Yes, he is, but he's having a battle with Sorensen, which he is going to come out ahead of. Now, obviously, I have a special place in my heart for the Sorensen car, which, amusingly, is marked 75, despite having 74 on the doors. And 74 is the number I also race under, and that is a lovely livery from them. Leon Wessels then, meanwhile, the Bentley up the hanger straight, up to Stowe, absolute pace over the Ferrari, out through for the moment into P10. Will the Ferrari try to fight back into the Vale chicane? I don't think yet, but he's not far enough, or he's not close enough to do it. And we shall have to see how far I think Leon Wessels is going to get up the order in this race. Stanislav, let's have a look then. He is fighting for P4 against Holzhauser. Meanwhile, who has actually gained from the outage of Robin Moe? Now, obviously everyone, arguably, but who has gained the most? I'd say it's Schwadner, who is now in P3 and has a comfortable gap behind of 2.7 seconds, else only being about a second off of Thomas Jack ahead. 1.1 to 0.9. My timing tower is fluctuating on race control. So he's going to be hoping that, well, he and his teammate Nathan Cartwright are going to be hoping that they can come back and perhaps take second place. But Thomas Jack is no slouch, and Thomas Jack only 1.2 seconds off of Martin Kovac, despite the jump Kovac got at the beginning of this race. He has been able to keep within about a second's distance, and that certainly bodes well, although can the Mustang keep its tyres together for a long enough period of time to perhaps try and take advantage of a messy pit stop, or perhaps even a change of weather some point later in this race. We could still get to see behind. You can see Stanislav absolutely up the rear end of the Porsche ahead of him. He's checking the brake fluid, I think, as he makes a lovely move on the outside of Stowe, and it gets ahead of the Porsche on the exit. That was a wonderful move on the outside. The Porsche looks a little bit to the inside, but nothing of it. And that is Stanislav Krokmaliuk up to P4. Gaps are starting to stretch out a bit down the order. You can see Yevhen Artemenko having a fight in that lovely base game livery, the Beechstein Aston Martin. They touch a little bit on the rear end of the Mustang, the front axle, the rear axle, but they both make it through the final corner, the club corner of the circuit very nicely. You can see behind Henning absolutely just hoping. There's another, yep, I can see that coming. Daniel Scott very eager to try and make his way around the outside of that. Now that will be something for our stewards to have a look at. I think from my initial interpretation, also I love how he's done the number board in a circle there. From my initial look at that, I think that might be Karga perhaps shutting the door on the car that's alongside him, but it'll be up to the stewards to have a look at that post-race. If Karga decides to put a ticket in, which if you are a teammate watching this live stewarding, we can use race control to check on incidents, but this is a post-race stewarded series, so if you get into an incident, put a ticket in for it, and just make sure the stewards will definitely have a look at it. So that is unfortunately means that this battle, which was looking very nicely between Artemenko and Karge, not only is over for the time being, or it looks like it might give us a nice battle against Yuri Akovsky. I'm going to have to keep looking at the names and reading them until I get used to them. So again, apologies if I have mispronounced anyone's name. Oh, gets a little bit on the dirt there. Looks like he's going to give us a very quick another battle, but unfortunately that might be marred by a potential penalty coming his way post-race. Whilst he dives up the inside. That was more, from my perspective at least, a more opportunistic dive than the incident with Karga, but he makes it through at Stowe and now is up another place to P14. Speaking of Anatoly Buryakovsky, let's have a look. He had an incident at the start of the race. Let's have a look at what incident it was using the replay. Little bump with, I think that is Karga again, into Cop's corner. That's sort of a race start incident, not too much to be said there. Let's have a look. A free car incident early on as well between the 187, the 80 and the 75. This is the incident, I think, that, that was the 80 car getting on the grass. That's what happened there. The 80 car got on the grass and just couldn't. It might be an unsafe rejoin, but I'm not sure as much he could do at that point. Unfortunately, he took out the 187 then car of Yevhen Artemenko with him, and the 75 car of others must have been caught up a little bit in that as well. Then we had contact between Daniel Scott in the 31 car and the 374 car. What was this? Maybe a little bit of door bang. No, it's going to be a dive, and that was what turned Daniel Scott around. And that was what we saw up at the loop. We had another incident with Robin Moe and Artemenko. Let's see what happened here. This must be Robin Moe trying to work his way up through the order. Oh, Robin just very, I don't know, just like he wasn't really aware of the car in front of him being as slow as it was. And just a nice beefy bit of contact with the rear end. Speaking of Robin Moe, him and Karga also apparently had it coming together. Let's have a quick look at this. Tries out the inside, he's on the edge of the track limits, a little bit of brushing. You should have realized that's what happens when you race American cars. Now, each of these contacts seem to have the car in the previous incident and then another car entirely. So now it's the 27 and the 187 car. I think this is what we just saw recently. Yes, it is. This is the move that spun Karga, unfortunately. See if we can have another look at that really quick. I want to have a look at the interior. Have a quick gander. See what perhaps we think. Not alongside into the braking zone. I think this may be a penalty post-race for Artemenko, as it's quite a move and a dive from the outboard. When we saw it initially, I wasn't certain, but looking at that there, I think that might be a penalty coming the way of the Aston Martin. Alright, we see then Todd Curtis is facing up against Pascal Tanner. He's within half a second thereabouts, and he's trying to get on the back of the fellow Porsche. You see the Holzhauser and Tanner Porsches, both from the glorious racing cars, which are currently pretty glorious up in P5 and P6, are coming now through Beckett's, but the very bright, luminous yellow and green Porsche, the fender bender, looking to get through. Having a gaps. There is a little battle developing back here for P17. See Kaga, after his incident, has been dropped by 7 seconds off the back of P19, 7.8. Sadly, he will have to do some work to fight back upwards, but not let that distract you from this hell of a battle going on between BMW and Aston Martin and a Porsche. Steinbeck looking for a way around that McDonald's BMW. Oh, very poor exit out of the Vale chicane, and that is going to be Anatoly Burakovsky not only losing P17 but also P18 for good measure. It's now down to P19. That was a very, very poor exit and a very opportune taking of it out of the chicane by Steinbeck. Certainly puts himself up to P17 in good fashion. Let's have a look what's happening up the order. Apophis then is now on the tail of Leon Vessels. The McLaren, which we have 2 McLarens in the exact same livery for this race. Yet I do not believe that they are teammates, which is rather amusing. I don't blame them though, it's a very lovely looking McLaren livery. The chrome, obviously, you know, very familiar of the classic chrome McLarens of the late 2000s, early 2010s. But the striping on the door panel was obviously the red, trying to indicate a bit of a Vodafone McLaren vibe. Really reminds me of that the testing liveries, one of the testing liveries that Red Bull used to run when they announced a new car. They had one that was like a Destroyer World War I camouflage with red and black, or red and navy, I guess, for the Red Bull colour scheme. And that's what this livery really reminds me of, but it's a gorgeous one indeed. He has dropped off, however, from Vessels by about a second now. The timing tower for ACC says 0.5, but the time power on race control says 1.5. So he has definitely dropped off. A big slide off the back end there as he comes through the farm curve. And that's going to harm his time even more as he's now dropped back 2 seconds. Robin Moe, meanwhile, this might think it's the same car. It's not. McLaren on McLaren, the 374 of Ignatiev versus the number 3 of Robin Moe. After the pit lane start, and Robin Moe gets ahead well and away on the Wellington Straight. And he makes his way up to P10 from a P20 start. Although the timing tower will not tell it, or the timing statistics will not tell it, because he technically started P3 due to what must have been some sort of equipment issue at the start of the race. And we have one ticket already in. I won't say for what incident, but a teammate. That's the benefit of having a teammate in these races, is you can put in tickets pretty damn quickly. Also means that you don't have to worry about finding too much after the race. Although sometimes it means that you might put a ticket in before you've called off and perhaps otherwise wouldn't have, which I suppose you could argue is a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your opinions on that matter. But the opinions right now do not matter. It's post-race stewarding, and this is Dennis Henning on Daniel Scott. A glorious racing car. I didn't realise there was a third one. I mean, I must have realised there was a third one, but I didn't realise that it wasn't 2 cars. It's 3 cars, Glorious Racing in Porsches. And this one currently on the back of the Sky Tempesta racing car of the number 31, Daniel Scott. The Scottish driver, very familiar to us at Racing Pals, who is going to have to defend the inside there. He doesn't make it through. Abbey does Henning. And now it's going to come up to Farm. Again, He's just looking for an opportunity. Is he going to try it into the loop? He is. And there's a bit of contact. Oh, bigger bit of contact on the exit. I think there was a contact to the rear end of Daniel Scott, pushing him, sliding him out wide. And then it's the front end of Daniel Scott, correcting Daniel, but unfortunately causing Henning himself to spin around. Let's have a quick replay of that from the helicam. No, that's not the right moment. Sorry, it's a different. There was an instant between then and now, apparently. So let's have a look at that now from the helicam. So, you see him look at the inside of the loop. He's alongside just... Oh, no, Daniel just got loose. And by the time he collected it, Henning had clearly just gone to continue on the racing line. He might think that Daniel Scott didn't give him enough room, but I don't think Daniel Scott had a chance. He was just trying to save the car. And Henning taking the regular line, expecting Daniel to wash out towards the edge of the exit down at Aintree. Obviously doesn't realise he's not going to, and suffers for it. Let's have a look. In the meantime, it was Sorensen and the Beechstein car of Artemenko. Let's have a look what happened here. I'm not sure where that is, but that is just a lack of the brakes. Thankfully, the only car that really suffers from it is the car that committed it. And we shall hopefully see that the stewards, if it is ticketed, take that into account. But Todd Curtis now, the gaps starting to spread out. We are starting to see the gaps with a couple of seconds still. Thomas Jack in P2 has lost since we last looked around 2 seconds to Kovac. The gap is now 3 seconds to the leader. And then Schwandler, I'm going to get really difficult with that. Schwandler is then 6 seconds further back off of Thomas Jack. He himself just crossed the line. You can see on the race track map. He has just come through Cox as Todd Curtis comes up to it. However, down the order, Tino Gunkel looking very close to Ignatiev. 0.3 seconds between the two drivers. There's a bit of a wide exit for Ignatiev there. That might be a warning. He might just get away with that. It did look like he'd come away from the curbing. I'm never quite sure what the full track limits there are. I kind of know it from inside the car, but outside it's a little bit of a mystery. But I think if you do come away from that curbing, you might get a warning or at least a no time gained message. Gunkel is now 0.5 seconds behind. I might have to jump back up though to Todd Curtis shortly if he manages to keep gaining. Very wide through Stowe for the Ferrari. That has put him back a second. He wasn't able to take advantage of any extra speed. But can he do with the braking into the chicane at Vale? Not too much, sadly. The gap remains about the same. Keeps flittering into the sub 1 second mark. He must be very upset that he does not have any drag reduction system in a GT3 car. Otherwise he might be able to stick with him a bit better. Meanwhile, Dennis Henning, after his incident with Daniel Scott, down at the farm curve, or at the loop, sorry, actually, it was at the loop, not farm. There's a, I believe this one here is farm. Oh no, sorry, I was getting confused. No, that's, sorry, farm curve's the long left hand, and it's village, I feel like village. But what I do know is this is Aintree, and through Aintree, or after Aintree, after the loop after Aintree, Dennis Henning is up another place into P17 on his return up the order, leaving Dave Petzold down in P18. Todd Curtis, meanwhile, 0.2 seconds now is the gap, but you can see behind him it's Leon Vessels, the QRT car, the Bentley, who is trying to take advantage of both of these drivers fighting. Oh! As that's a big moment from Tanner, Pascal Tanner. What happened there? Let's have a quick look from the interior. If I can. So you can see he was defending. The mirror is going to be broken because the mirror shows what they're currently seeing, and what they're currently seeing is a brick wall in their rear end, a concrete wall at the very least. Did he get a throttle stuck? Because that was, it certainly looked like. You can hear it. The wheel, you can see the snap. His wheel stopped working. And he got on the brakes as soon as on track, but that is a very unfortunate, I think that's a race-ending incident for Pascal Tanner. He does get going again. Maybe it won't be. Maybe he will try and come back. His wheel is not moving. He's going to have to return to pit lane, and that may be the end of the race for him and for his teammate Anton Inhoffner, who we have not yet seen in this race. Or maybe they will try and swap drivers, try and fix the wheel and get back out to finish the race. That is an unfortunate incident, and certainly has robbed us of yet another little battle we might see. But Daniel Scott is now on the rear end of, I believe it's Steinbeck. I'm not sure if he just got past the position or if he is passing for position, but Daniel will certainly be one to fight back. One person that will be quite happy about what has just happened is not Leon Wessel's Todd Curtis, who now has a bit of clean air and can focus with 3 seconds ahead of him to Holzhauser and only 0.5 behind him to Wessels. Todd Curtis can focus and get his head down on the fence rather than having to worry about the car ahead making a move whilst trying to defend at the same time. Dennis Henning, that's down through Copse, has taken advantage against a Ferrari through Magnus and Beckett's. Has taken another place, this time from Sorensen in the 16th place, now 75 Ferrari, as Henning takes P15. And unfortunately, that's like the car, the other Glorious Racing car that had that issue, has now left the race, and there are 19 drivers left. And that is not only unfortunate for that particular car, it's also unfortunate for the teammate who has now had to sacrifice. Oh no, never mind. Sorry, he is back. I keep saying I thought he was gone. He did leave the server, and it might be that Inhoffner is in the car. We'll have to wait and see once their timer or any countdowns they have to worry about end. But the Glorious Racing Porsche, the 323 Porsche, is back in the server. He's dropped off of the jacks. Is he waiting for a countdown? We'll have to jump back and have a look later on, but Leon Wessel still on the attack of Todd Curtis. So whilst we're here, we might have a quick discussion about pit stops. So, in our mini-series here, we are having varying race rule sets for this race, something I did want to go through earlier, but was again trying to sort out internet issues, which thankfully seem to have been solved. But in this race, there are no rules with the exception of a minimum 20-second stop timer, so any pit stop has to be a minimum of 20 seconds. Although you may be aware a tyre change is 30, so it would be essentially a splash and dash situation to use it. But there are no restrictions other than that, no stint timer, no minimum stops. And as such, drivers are free to race however long their tanks may take them, or whatever strategy they want to use. So we might see some interesting strategies from many of these cars, particularly those with solo drivers who have to worry perhaps a bit less about equal driver share. Not that there is any requirement to do equal driver share, but you know, it's nice when you're in a team to give people roughly about the same amount of time in the car. So we might see quite a few pit stops coming up when we get to the 50-minute remaining mark, which will be the halfway mark of this 100-minute race. Leon Wessel struggling to get past Todd Curtis. Meanwhile, behind Robin Moe, who's gaining now only 0.8 to the both, or to Leon Vessels, and 0.8 to the battle that is happening ahead of him. And his teammate, Victor Borlin, will probably be getting the car at that 50-minute mark, taking over this car that has gained now 12 positions from its race start. Alexander Karger is in the pit lane. I'm not quite sure why. Possible they have had to repair damage, or maybe they're just taking a pit stop. They should just about be able to go to the end of this race on a single tank. It might be difficult for all the Mustangs, but I think it should be doable. I believe from previous experience, the Mustang can do about an hour 18. And that was at Spa, so possibly easier here at Silverstone, where we've got less lap time to get back into pit lane. He comes out of the pits now, he's coming out of his box, and he is in P18. We have lost another car somewhere. I've noticed Pascal Tanner is in P20, a lap down off of all cars due to their issues. And somewhere along the lines we have lost another car, and I'm not quite sure who. Meanwhile, Robin Mote still right on the rear now. Closed that gap to 0.3 seconds to Vessels. It's going to be, again, now Vessels finds himself in that situation Todd Curtis was before Tanner's incident. He is sat in the middle, he's trying to attack the car ahead and now has to worry about defending the car behind, and Robin is making a move. Oh, that was through the loop. He's on the inside, he's got the axle to the axle. Now it's going to be a race of power. The Bentley should get there a little bit towards the end. And it will do up to Brooklands. There you see the Bentley get a little bit of an advantage. A little bit later on the brakes is Robin Moe, and Robin Moe has done it into Brooklands. And will now take the fight himself to Todd Curtis, that Vessels was struggling to do just moments before. See the Bentley get just back up towards the end of Brooklands, but then perhaps uncomfortable with a later braking, Vessels backs out a little bit. And now Robin Moe up to P7. Can he make that P6 by the time that he takes his next stop? And Victor Borlin presumably gets in the car. Ivan Artemenko, meanwhile, is going to take advantage of Tino Gunkel's moment there on the curbing out of Copse. Managed to keep the car together, but will not maintain what was P11, now P12 for the Ferrari. And Artemenko, 0.9 seconds now to the car ahead, that is Ignatiev in P10. Robin Moe, however, already on the rear end of Todd Curtis in the Porsche. As it comes to F1 turn 1 of Abbey, a corner that used to go left now goes right. Has done since 2011. Now through what is actually farm. Oh, get contact with the quarter panel. The rear quarter panel comes into contact with the front quarter of the McLaren. Thankfully, no incident, but that's certainly going to let Todd Curtis know that there is a contender right there waiting to take that position and take P6 from him. Meanwhile, Artemenko got a four-way battle here between the other McLaren as Chrome. Ignatiev gets passed by Apophis and now by Artemenko also, and then Gunkel behind, also looking to close down that gap. Can Ignatiev fight back in the McLaren against the Aston Martin with a Ferrari on his tail? Does not look to be happening. Gunkel now 0.2 seconds behind, but very wide there, entry into Copse, and that's going to drop him back a little bit further. And he's actually dropped quite a way back, down 1.1 to 1.2 seconds now. Certainly not what he would have wanted. Going into that corner as Robin Moe now up to Stowe they go. Todd Curtis defending very nicely there, but can Robin get a good exit? And he's going to maybe make a dive. I think he will into the rail chicane. No, he thinks better of it. When he goes to the outside, that's something you don't see every day. That means he's got the inside for the second part, and that is an amazing move by Robin Moe. The outside line through the rail chicane is not something you see often. And that is Robin Moe up to P6 in a spectacular fashion. Todd Curtis back down to P7, defending himself once again from Leon Vessels, as he actually goes a bit wide there, and Leon Vessels takes advantage and gets through before they even get to Village. It's Todd Curtis down to 8th place now. There's going to be a fight, I think, between Robin Moe and Leon Vessels if Leon can put something against that McLaren, but it's not looking entirely possible at the moment with the pace that Robin Moe has shown since starting so much further down the order than they qualified. This is Tino Gunkel on Ignatiev. We've been waiting for it for a little while. Gunkel back on him. Gunkel seems to have the pace to make the positions, to make it work, but keeps having these little moments, keeps having these little bits. So there was a moment there was a couple of moments at Copse. One he went wide and almost lost the car on the curbing. The second one he went a bit deep but not too far out, but it lost him some time against the car ahead. But now, can he keep it together and take, or will be P10 away from Ignatiev ahead? Right now, there's another battle unfolding down the order. Dennis Henning right on the rear of Steinbeck. Into Stowe, he will have the inside line. I think that'll be an easy done. Yes, it is. Steinbeck does not fight it particularly hard. And that is a fair taking of the place from one of the glorious racing Porsches here today. Artemenko, meanwhile, has been passed. Sorry, no, has passed. Now on the back of Gunkel, it must have had some sort of incident slowed him down again. Oh, very slightly into Village there. And there's going to be a battle out of Aintree, I think, onto the Wellington Straight as Gunkel slightly ahead now. Can he maintain it? Let's have a look with the helicam. Oh, I think there's a little contact as he moves out to the left. That unsettles Gunkel quite significantly. Both very much similar on the braking. Gunkel trying best not to hit the Aston. The Aston just creeping ahead. And through Luffield now. Will the Ferrari get a good exit? He's trying a very early on frontal, taking a wide line as that was one of the two McLarens in the grass. It's the 666 McLaren of Apophis who will drop down the order now to 12th. That was an unexpected. He's also now taken to the pit lane. And he's very thankful where he has had that crash because he can very easily return. And Gunkel is very much being left in the dust by Artemenko in P10 now. Apophis goes through. Was there an incident? No, there was no incident to speak of. I think he must have just lost it. Ended up in a barrier, and he has now taken to the pits to repair the damage that he has gained from what I assume was some sort of contact with a barrier. Either that, or he has simply decided to refreshen his tyres after that incident. whatever may have happened. Sadly, it did not seem to have been in contact with another car, so I can't get it on the replay. At least not without a lot of fiddling mid-race. If anyone does know, maybe put it in the chat if he has a teammate, but I'm not sure if he does. No, he does not, sadly. If anyone saw it, it would be interesting to know. Artemenko now trying to do what Gunkel could not. He's going to be late-ish on the brakes into Brooklands, but does not make the dive. Maybe he'll try it out of Luffield. Takes a mid-line. He's going to go to the inside now as the McLaren goes wide. Both on the throttle. McLaren struggles to get on the throttle. Possibly TC a little too low for that. And that is Artemenko well ahead through at the line. 0.4 seconds already in it. I'm not quite sure what the plan was of Ignatiev, but it did not seem to work in that moment. And now Ignatiev, see behind him is Gunkel. He has lost some time with that battle. Can Gunkel perhaps use his advantage? We shall have to see. .8 seconds now is the gap between Ignatiev and Artemenko. Meanwhile, Holzhauser and Krok-Maliuk are fighting. Someone was there on the side of the track. Is that the 666 car again? Yes, it is. I'm not sure what is happening to this car as he gets passed by the other McLaren in the same livery. But Holzhauser now on the back of the Scuderia Ferrari of Krok-Maliuk, fighting now for the last place, the first place outside of the podium, P4. See them run through Cops very tidily, running to the edge of the limits of that curb. Gains a little time there. Robin Moe, however, you can see him right behind. Robin Moe once again sees two cars battling and thinks, I might like to have a part of that, please. Let's see as they come free abreast. Not abreast, the other one. A draft? I don't know. Line astern, that's the one. Line astern, as Crofty likes to say on occasion, as does Brundle. And this is going to be an opportune moment for Robin Moe to make up again for that formation lap troubles that left him starting this race from the pit lane. I mean, I think he thought he was Sergio Perez or something. Can Robin take the glorious racing car in the next few corners? We've seen him do it a few times in this section of the track. He's going to have a good run. They come up to Village. He's not going to try it. Maybe out of Aintree if he can get a good exit onto Wellington Straight. We saw him do that with Leon Wessels. Can he make it against the Porsche? Obviously less power in the Porsche, but he's nowhere near as alongside as he was with Wessels earlier. He's going to have to wait until likely after Cops at this rate, unless something happens through these next two corners. Nothing in Brooklands. Through to Luffield. You see, Holzhauser has changed, I think, to defending against Robin Moe, and that has allowed Krok-Maliuk to get a little bit further ahead down the road than he was before. Maybe this is benefiting the 123 Ferrari more than it is helping Robin Moe. 59 minutes now left to go in this race session. 40 down, 41 even. And we are going to see, I think, soon enough, some of our first driver swap pit stops, unless we've seen one already and I just haven't noticed it. But certainly, this man here is going to hand over the car to Victor Borlin in a very good position. Just having a check, Holzhauser is also going to hand over to his teammate Pascal Reuter. And we shall see how the second drivers do in a race session. It's often a point of question, especially if you're commentating on an endurance race, is what are the relative skill levels of each driver in a team and how might that impact your strategy? Certainly is a thing in very long endurance races. I've done a number of 24-hour races, especially when you can look at lap times and say iRacing or something like that, and it's always a very interesting question, especially when you come to that sort of 20th hour and you know what your strategy is going to be based on the driver in the car. Obviously, this is the first race of a new season, and some of these drivers are new to racing cars entirely, especially these glorious racing cars, though I do hope to see more of in future. And so, Robin Moe and Victor Borlin have no idea how they may face against the teammate of Holzhauser. Obviously, Holzhauser himself has done very nicely and is defending very well. We'll be curious to see what happens after the pit stops. Victor Borlin, obviously, we know as a driver who can be very quick and can be very together. I don't know what his pace is in terms of comparison between him and Robin Moe today, but I know that depending on track and car, they can be very close to one another and trade blows as needed. As Robin gets the axle alongside the outside of Stowe, late on the brakes also, but sticking it in is the Porsche, keeping side by side the contact, and the Porsche gets spun around by Robin Moe. And that will certainly be one for the stewards, as the 84 Porsche gets going again and has lost a handful of places now, down to P8. He's lost place to Robin Moe, obviously. He's lost place to Leon Vessels, Todd Curtis, Holzhauser, then P8. And the 84 car also has a yellow flag up at the chicane. He may have damage. Let's have a look. No, he looks to be okay on the steering, but obviously there may be damage to the exterior of the car, affecting the performance. This may be the time then for him to come in, take that stop, change driver, and write up a ticket. Tino Gunkel, meanwhile, still facing down against Ignatiev. Maybe he should take a leaf out of Robin Moe's book and simply brush him aside, but I don't think he's got alongside enough to do so yet. Let's then have a quick helicam and have a quick look, if we can, at that contact between the two cars. You can see them. This is not going to be the best camera for it. I'm going to see if I can get the interior of the 84 car. Let me. So we can see Robin alongside, running to the... I think there was just a miscommunication of the turns. Robin was expecting perhaps the Porsche, as I predicted, the Porsche comes into the pit lane. It was Alexander Cargate for a second stop in a race which has no limits on the number of stops you can do, or no limits on a minimum number of spots you have to do either. As Robin Moe at some point in that also got past Maliak, and I'm sorry, so we missed that whilst trying to have a look. Let's see if we can go back 6 seconds, see if we can see it. But yes, Porsche comes in, and I think there was just a miscommunication between themselves and Robin Moe about exactly what was going to happen. I think Robin was expecting them to move to the right earlier, and the Porsche was trying to run wide before taking to the chicane. Right, we can see Maliak through now to Beckett's. going to get something on the exit chapel. No, I think Robin Moe just... It's 27 seconds of replay left. Into Stowe perhaps, so he looks to the inside, goes to the outside, very late lunge. Again, side by side, just as we saw, but there it is, the Ferrari. A little bit too much on the curb, a little bit perhaps even on the grass on the inside of Stowe, and that threw him off, and he was unable to create the traction that the McLaren had, and that has led to Robin Moe up to P4. However, possible penalties post-race for the German driver and for his teammate, therefore also the Swedish driver Victor Bolin, who has yet to drive in this race. It'll be interesting to see when he decides to come in. Let's have a quick look at our race leader. Martin Kovac now 10 seconds is the gap between himself and Thomas Japp. Now, Thomas Japp started this race some 50 minutes ago, quite nicely maintaining a gap as Ignatiev comes into the pit lane as well. He quite nicely maintained a gap, did Thomas Jack, of about a second. That then dropped to about 3 seconds, about 20 to 30 minutes in. Now it is 10, and that might be a sign of the Mustang famously wearing its tyres something fierce. But well, it's not going to really bother too much. Martin Kovac sitting quite pretty in P1, and when he will take the pit stop is his own affair, as he is a sort of driver. He has no concerns for any driver sharing with a second. He might take a long stint followed by a relatively short one to try and maximize that second stint in terms of lap time. You take less fuel, less weight, and thus not only actually do you get faster laps, but more often than not you get a nicer wear. Although it depends on the car, and the Honda obviously is famously twitchy, both in ACC and in real life. 0.3 seconds then is apparently the gap from Robin Moe to the 911 car of Schwedener. However, the camera does not want to seem to see Schwedener. I'm not sure. He is, though, he's right there, but the camera wasn't showing. I thought there was a problem. I was thinking he was like Carlos Sainz around 2018, where he just refused to show him on the television. But for some reason, Schwedener wasn't appearing on our camera, but now he is there. You can see him, and hopefully Robin Moe can see him as well. Otherwise, this could get quite messy. Actually, if I remember right, there used to be a bug in one of the old F1 games when I still did some league racing in F1 2018 or 2019. I remember there was a bug where certain drivers would not appear visible on the track to their competitors, which led to a number of incidents, which obviously no one could be punished for because they couldn't see the car in the first place. So I hope ACC is not having that trouble, but I think by the looks of it, Robin Moe can certainly see the car ahead and certainly wants to pass the car ahead as well. The problem is when you start from P last, as we see Dennis Henning take Gunkel into Chapel. Gunkel might try and fight him. I think he's well passed up to Stowe. And Robin Moe got very close to the back end, it looked like there on the timing tower, to Schwedener ahead. But still P4 for him. Now, what I was going to say was that Robin Moe, starting P20, obviously one of the quicker drivers on the grid in Racing Powers in general, also one of our Racing Powers coaches. So if you're watching this back and you want perhaps some help coaching with Suzuka, maybe drop a line in the free coaching channel, and maybe Robin Moe or one of our other coaches might be able to take some time to give you some advice pointers on ACC. Robin Moe certainly the recent winner of our latest season of RP series. But the problem is that when you start from the back of the grid as a quick driver, you might get through the grid pretty easily when you get up to the top lot, and they're going to be far more aggressive and far more defensive than anyone you had previously come across. And that will make things very difficult for you especially for Robin Moe, who started this race, or was meant to start this race P3, trying to fight now back for it after 50 minutes of climbing back up the order. And that is a stop-go 30 for Alex Kage. Oh, sorry, I just missed that. Looking, Robin Moe, I apologise for that. Robin Moe made a move through Stowe, but it's going to be fought back by Maurice into the chicane. They're going to get very close to each other's rear ends. And that's... oh, he's almost pushing him to the track limits. Can Maurice fight back into Abbey? I don't know if he'll be able to get anything on. No, he cannot get anything on the McLaren there. And that is another brilliant move by Robin Moe by the looks of it. There was a good fight back low by the 911 car. That was one of the greater fight backs I have seen in ACC in a long time. I'm very glad that I caught that, even if I did almost go away to Alex Kage. Alex Kage, as I was saying, has a stop-go 30-second time penalty, so he will have to come into the box, stop and wait for 30 seconds before getting going again. I'm assuming that will be speeding in the pit lane during his second pit stop. That also means he will have technically made 3 pit stops at the end of this race if he doesn't make any more after serving his penalty, which he has to do within 3 laps. Let's have a look. What are the other battles? So Krokmaliuk is now 0.4 seconds behind Leon Vessels, who you also saw that. Yes, he didn't also seem to appear on the thing. I'm going to try and make sure that people are appearing as they should. But the Ferrari will try and take. He looks the inside of the loop. Luckily doesn't fight too much. Who was that? I'm not quite sure. That's a 27 car. That's Alexander Kage, who still has to serve his 30-second stop-go 30-second penalty. And the 666 car is also having some trouble somewhere. Being said that he was a slow car, he might have had a moment out of chapel, but seems to have corrected it now. As they come then up to Maggots and Beckett's once again. 0.6 seconds is between the Ferrari of Krokmaliuk and the Bentley of Leon Vessels, as Sorensen finally takes to the pit lane to serve, well, not serve anything, but to take a pit stop and possibly change driver as well. He is marked to have a teammate, so we shall see who takes that car over. See the inside of Ferrari, you can't really see too much. I wish we had better. Oh, I do like the bonnet cap. It's a nice camera. You can see the car ahead. Big boy that is the Bentley. That large diffuser. Gearbox perfectly placed in the middle in case you want to do a mid-race inspection. 0.6 seconds. Can the Ferrari? Both cars have a reasonable amount of pace in them on a straight line. Bentley would probably be wishing that the track was wet right now, being the boat that it famously is. But it is 1-on-1. I think something is happening to Sorensen. He is P22 now and seems to have left and rejoined the server. I'm not sure what's happening there. Maybe a technical issue for them also, which would be a shame if so. seems to have left the server again. Maybe they're having a trouble with the driver swap. It's possible they didn't join in the correct order, and maybe one of them had an issue. Reminder to all drivers that are watching this back or watching it now live, you must join ACC in the correct order, as is a famous thing. It's in the team swap guide, and it's in our rules, permanently pinned to our endurance rules section, because ACC doesn't like it when you join outside of the entry list order, so whoever is the number 1 driver should join the server first, followed by the number 2, and so on and so on. Well, actually I don't think it matters beyond the number 1, but so long as you join number 1 first, you should be good to go for a game centered around what was originally the Blank Pen Endurance Championship, as Martin Kovacs takes to the pit lane for his first and only stop of the race. Going to come out in P4 by the looks of it. We'll have to see. Thomas Jack, meanwhile, half a track away. But yes, ACC as a sim, as a game, which, despite being focused on what was at the time the Blank Pen Endurance Championship, or as a GT3 Championship, that since has become GT World Challenge, which famously includes endurance and sprint events, of which we are calling this the RP Endurance Series, but it's closer to what in real life is often the Sprint Series. It's a bit how like iRacing calls IMSA Endurance races, despite the fact that 2 hours and 40 minutes is an actual IMSA sprint. But in sim racing we sometimes do it a bit differently, but it is odd that a game focused, or a sim focused on something that is so dedicated to endurances, the actual driver swap part of it is such like an aftermarket add-on. But we somehow make it work even when it sometimes doesn't. So that is unfortunate if that is the reason why Sorensen is having those issues. Sorensen himself is coming back out on his own, which may mean they are having an issue with their driver swap. Unfortunately, if anyone has pinged anything about it, I won't have heard it. After I did turn my notifications off. I admit I had them on at the beginning, but I got a ping from something and turned them off. It may be that Sorensen had to take this second stint. Now, there are no fixed rules for the pit stops. There's no mandatory driver time, so I'm not sure if ACC will give them a black flag or not. It may be discussed with the stewards whether we take that away if he's had troubles with teammates, especially considering he will have lost time and places from trying to rejoin the server. I'm not sure how it will work. We do not have any mandatory timers, so they might be perfectly fine to finish this race as a solo driver if their second driver could not join. Thomas Jack, meanwhile, on the tail of the McDonald's Bear BMW, currently sitting in P1, will want to get past him relatively quickly. It isn't necessarily being gotten out of the way of. There is no requirement, you can see Sorensen ahead, there's no requirement in racing powers, as there is no requirement in real GT3 racing for blue flagged cars to get out of the way. That is simply that they must keep to their line and be predictable when blue flags are waved. And it's the duty of the overtaking car, as in most situations, to make the move safely and surely. They are simply not allowed to defend or fight against them when they come up. Is this necessarily the best way to do blue flags? Well, maybe, maybe not, but it's the way we have decided to do them. It's the way that GT3s do them, and so why not, I guess, as Sorensen comes into the pit lane. I mean, there are other ways you can do blue flag rules. IndyCar's one I always find quite fun, that you're allowed to defend the lead lap, but nothing more. And certainly has led to some very fun racing moments. I mean, I think it's 2021 at Laguna Seca, I think, perhaps. Romain Grosjean fighting Jimmy Johnson, who was blue flagged, but on the lead lap, or on the same lap as Romain Grosjean, at least at the time, having a lovely scrap into the corkscrew and getting their hands a bit dirty in the process. But there are all sorts of different interpretations. We've simply decided for ease to go with the one that real GT3s tend to use. Robin Moe, meanwhile, has now taken to the pit lane. And the 27 car, Alexander Karga, is in the wall, and there's a bit of carbon flying onto the track. I think, oh no, it's not carbon, it's a cone. I don't know where that cone's come from. I think someone else must have hit that, because there's no cones on the outside. Alexander Karga seems to have hit the wall. And that's going to hurt their current race situation. Robin Moe, meanwhile, still in the pit lane. Martin Kovac has passed them and is already up to Stowe. Victor Borlin should be in that car once he exits the pit lane. Or not, unless it's taking a minute to update. Does not appear that Victor Borlin has taken over that car. I'm not seeing anything written in the endurance chat about any issues with driver swaps, so I'm not sure what's happening. Never mind, the system simply took a while to update, and that is Borlin in the car, as well as, I'm going to say, I've now lost him again. I'm not sure what's happening with Sorensen. I keep seeing him pop up on the timing tower. Possible he is leaving and rejoining, and maybe trying to get the driver swap to work. If it's not working for them, certainly what it appears to be. I mean, he has a co-driver, so if it was a technical error, I would be surprised if they wouldn't just swap the drivers, especially at this point in the race. Victor Borlin takes over the car from Robin Moe. Now, if I have a look, now they are listed as having 2 pit stops. They do not have 2 pit stops there because they returned to pit once in the formation lap. They're counted as having 2. Gunkel and Jack are yet to stop, so by the looks of things, if things carry as they do, Victor Borlin will actually pit. Oh, sorry, not will pit, but when Gunkel and Jack pit, Victor Borlin will be in P4, which means that someone somewhere has either pitted early, I'm not sure if it's this car, or Leon Wessels, perhaps. Oh, it might be Leon Wessels who had an incident early on. One car either is out of position or has successfully undercut to an extreme degree Victor Borlin and Robin Moe. I think we'll have to wait for those final pit stops to be made to see what is happening. Now the most curious thing to me is Thomas Jack is still going in a Mustang which has, let's say, a moderately high fuel usage as far as I'm aware. It's possible he's running on an extreme low fuel map of some kind, or he's running on a lower fuel map trying to save fuel. I don't think he'll ever be able to go to the end of this race on one tank. And certainly it'll be more difficult to go on one set of tyres in the Mustang, which wear off quite quickly if you do not treat them extremely well. But he is now a good 70 odd minutes through this race, almost 70 minutes, 65. That is essentially a stint timer worth. I suppose it's not too far, but I'm surprised that he is going as long as he is on a single tank of fuel, considering how much I would have weighed him down comparatively for that first stint, as Martin Kovac, meanwhile, is putting in the best lap of the race on his last lap, a 59.075 from him, or 1:59 to be specific. 0.75 for him. That is 8 tenths, or about 7 tenths faster than Thomas Jack's best time of 1:59.815, which was likely set earlier in this race on a higher fuel load. Martin Kovac, having pitted more recently, lower fuel, new tyres in the car, and a lot of clean air to use and to gain on Thomas Jack. And you can see on the map, it's currently coming through Aintree as the Honda NSX is coming up to the Vale chicane. Artemenko, meanwhile, is the closest car to another pole position on track right now. He's coming up to the back of Pascal Ruta, who is, if I remember rightly, the teammate of Holzhauser, currently sitting P9. After I think they had to, was it? No, it was Tanner. No, sorry, it was them. It was them who had to come in together with Roman Moe and put them a little bit down the order. So Tanner was the one who had his wheel broke at Chapel as we're coming up to it again. Now, there's too many glorious racing cars. I'm just blending in together. I'm very happy to have a lovely large team going at it. But Artemenko out of Chapel, good exit. Nope, Holzhauser backs out of it quite early on and allows the Aston Martin to take a nice position through Stowe. Don't worry about that quick screen freeze, I was just saving the replay for, as I realised that stewarding purposes might be useful just to have it. Pascal Ruta then sticking with the Aston Martin but slowly dropping off slightly. Now down to 0.6 seconds, I think. That is the move done by Artemenko pretty decently. Well, Sorensen is still going around. Presumably they have not fixed their issues and maybe just contented themselves with finishing the race. Now the interesting thing is this man here, Alexander Kuchin, early on TWRT, this team endorses BMW, it said they have only done 6 laps of this race. You can see on the time trial they are 27 laps down. They must have an issue and have returned to finish at some point. A bit of a classic Iceman situation, if anyone remembers that endurance race at Spa where Ivan Bratz did in the presidential motorcade car that he called it. I think it was a Bentley or Mercedes or some car. I can't remember which one it was specifically. And he did 2 hours of a 6-hour race. He did 1 hour of a 6-hour race. Got wiped out at some point in the wet weather. Went away for about 4 hours and came back to finish the race with the longest pit stop in Racing Power's history, arguably. It's nice to see that they've come back to finish this race out, and they will obviously be awarded the points for doing so in this 4-race mini championship. Victor Walden on the back of the Ferrari now. 0.2 seconds in it. He makes a look to the inside of Maggots. That's not a place. There's a touch on the entry and a touch on the exit. And both of them will go forwards. Oh, that was Croc Maliak. I think he must have, something happened there. And he ended up sliding across the track. I think they were going to basically come together and get racing again. I think maybe they, at least Victor might have thought that was just a bit of a racing incident, a bit of a bumping, but he needs to get going again, does Maliak, if he wants to get away from the 187 car closing on him now. Let's have a look what actually happened. So you can see him get there, and I think he then just loses the car. Can't get it pointed straight and get the traction back under it. And sadly, that means he has now dropped down to P8, but for Victor Borlin, happy occasion as he's up to P5. Obviously that initial contact might be looked at. I think that was personally a little bit of a racing tackle. A little bump on the way in, a bump on the way out. Unfortunately, that led to both of them having some trouble. The Ferrari sadly a little bit more trouble than that. Now, Todd Curtis was gaining on Victor Borlin after he was obviously slowed down. It's within that second gap. I'm not sure though if he will maintain it. Thomas Jack, meanwhile, has pitted, comes out of the pits. Come out around Sorensen, but who is a few laps down. The gap between Thomas Jack and Martin Kovac here, your race leader now, 20 seconds. I mean, Thomas was talking some to Kovac earlier. I think Kovac maybe took that to heart and decided to say, I'm going to not only beat you, I'm going to beat you convincingly. Meanwhile, Tino Gunkel, 25 seconds with Thomas Jack. These top two are in a league of their own. But behind them, the fight for P3 is only just getting started as Leon Wessels, a car that again, much like Robin Moe started P20 due to a technical issue in the formation lap. Leon Wessels, due to rain in qualifying, was meant to start P20, started P19 in the end. And, well, is now up to P3. That's a very nice move through Stowe. I think there must be some issues with Gunkel in it. I want to have a quick second look at that. If I don't see anything happen immediately, let's have a quick look back. So coming out of Chapel, it's Bentley Power versus Ferrari. See the car just gaining with that engine. Don't know what exact engine it is, but it's certainly a large one. And you can see, yes, Gunkel just gets a little bit out of shape. Perhaps have to correct the steering, and that allows Wessels through up to P3, and he's now 1.1 seconds ahead. And he'll gain a little bit more as they go down the Wellington Straight. For what must be the 35th time for these two cars. Possibly the 36th, actually. So Leon Wessels, 26.8 seconds, 27 make that to Thomas Jack ahead. Now with 26 minutes in the race remaining, it's a hard ask of any car, but this car that started second to last was meant to start last. Certainly if anyone could do it, it might be him, as Gunkel comes into the pit lane. Now, I'm not sure if this is his first stop. It may very well be. We shall have to see. I've just checked the RP Endurance chat, and Alex Karga, I remember I was talking about that bit of carbon I thought I saw leave his car, well, it turned out to be a cone. Well, his words in the chat were simply that MFing cone. So I assumed that he hit it in a way which was not germane, and the car did not like it. Which isn't something you regularly see in ACC, because the cones tend to be a little bit nicer. I've seen it certainly in iRacing before with the cones, but tends to not happen so much. It's curious to see that it's finally happened in a Kunos Simulazione, as they call it. Todd Curtis still sitting nicely P5. That is after being overtaken. He must have been overtaken at some point by Victor Borlin. Victor Borlin in P4 now. And he is 6.4 seconds behind Leon Wessels, which they will certainly be looking to once again face against that car for that position, which they were meant to have started this race in the 3 car. Leon Wessels then, so that makes sense. Leon Wessels is the person that has gained out of the pit cycles, because when they entered the pits, Borlin and Moe were in P3, and when they exited the pits they were in P6, and now, well, now they're in P4, So Wessels must have gained an advantage on them, currently up 17 places according to the statistics. I think technically that's 16 because of the number 3 cars problems on the formation lap. But that's a significant gain from both the P3 and P4 cars currently in this race. An impressive amount of change. Ah, yes. Part of it might have been, according to the list, Victor Borland's pit stop was 39 seconds, whilst Leon Wessels' pit stop was 34 seconds, and their time pit is a couple of seconds apart. And whilst that may not seem like much, it might have just been enough to get one out in a different place to the other. Maybe a bit of clean air on the out lap or the in lap helping. So many things could play and contribute to this, but Leon Wessels has certainly played a nicer strategy game this afternoon than Victor Borland and Robin Moe at the moment, but that gap gets cut down a little bit now to 5.9 seconds. We might see a battle for P3 before the end of this race in 22 minutes and 42 seconds. The Ferrari now coming back into a fight against Nathan Cartwright, who is the teammate of Maurice Schwandner and who is currently sitting P6 with an 18.2 second gap to the car ahead that is Todd Curtis in P5. It's looking as though this will be the battle to the end of the race for this position, barring any DNFs or technical issues from the cars ahead, or at least massive incidents. Gap sitting still around 1 second. There's a bit of traffic for Cartwright here. That is going to move over. That is Alexander Cargay in the Mustang. He's going to move over, but that has led to Cartwright taking a deeper line. Just, I think, not out of necessity, but out of caution. And that has enabled Krokmaliuk has kept the gap, but now Krokmaliuk is going to have to sit behind Cargay in a sector where he doesn't really want to be. And behind him is Artemenko, who has massively gained due to the interference. I don't want to say interference, it makes it sound like maliciousness, but it is a sort of interference, an acceptable interference from the Mustang, who was simply taking a line for a difficult portion of the track. Look at bumper to bumper. Ferrari and the Aston is going to try and make a move not into the Vale chicane. He's not quite made it yet. He comes now up to Abbey. He's got a speed advantage on the Ferrari. The Ferrari definitely got some damage on the front end there. I think the Aston a little bit, but not as much. See it when the light hits it, a little bit of crumbling. But that is definitely, the gaps now are even actually. Whilst we were saying all that, Krokmaliuk's defense seems to have actually helped him in regards to pace, as he has now gained up 2.4 seconds on Cartwright, and Artemenko behind him now fighting still. This is now the battle for P6. And with 20 minutes remaining, it might take us right to the end of this race. And you see behind is one of the glorious racing cars. That's Pascal Rutter, who is P9, 1.8 seconds behind. This might become a four-way fight very, very quickly. Come through Cops. A better line from Cartwright that time round. No traffic to contend with, but not good enough, as the Ferrari almost looks for a movement to Maggots. Now we saw how that played out for Victor Borland, but the Porsche takes too deep into Maggots, gets onto the grass on the exit and into Beckett's. The Ferrari is the leading car in this pack, and Pascal Rutter now 0.7 seconds to Cartwright, who has lost 2 places due to a bit of over-ambition into Maggots. Stanislav maybe pulling off a little bit of a mind punt. And certainly being the successor, as that is Artemenko very wide at Stowe, and that's going to allow Krukmaliuk a little bit of leeway to those cars who are now going to have to fight themselves for what is now P7. And hopefully, for him at least, Krukmaliuk can use this to pull away and maybe gain himself a little bit of clean air behind, as once this battle resolves itself, however it does, you'll have less time before the end of this race for whoever comes out on top to catch up. But this will rely on Cartwright taking the battle to Artemenko ahead, which he's not seemed to quite be doing right now, and he has got to contend himself with this man here, Pascal Rutter, a Glorious Racing 84 Porsche. Gaps are evening out, certainly. Artemenko is 1.2 seconds behind the Ferrari. Cartwright then 1.2 seconds behind Artemenko as he's fighting against Rutter now. This will allow P7 and P6 a little bit of breathing room, but that also means that P7 can get on the back of P6 without to worry about Cartwright. And he's certainly closing that gap a little bit more now. 0.9. This here is 0.2. Again, through Cops, where we saw Cartwright had some issues. A better exit this time around. Maggots, where they went extraordinarily deep last time around. This time they keep it within the track and keep it pointing in the right direction. But they still appear to be losing time to the car behind, whilst Artemenko, I want to try and watch both these battles at the same time. I'm going to keep switching between them. That's Rutter side by side down the hangar straight, but the better exit. Porsche, same power, same advantage over one another. It'll be purely wing setup at the same time as these two are going side by side into the Vale chicane almost. Artemenko. Cartwright has lost that position to Rutter behind. We're going to have a quick look behind once we get the chance. Artemenko dives it up the inside. You can see Rutter behind absolutely taken that place quite firmly from Cartwright now. And this battle here is still going on. The Ukrainian driver loses out to Artemenko. Sorry, not Artemenko, sorry. The Ukrainian driver succeeds. Wait, which one? Sorry, I'm getting confused. They're both Ukrainian drivers. That's why I'm getting confused. But the Aston Martin benefits and takes the position, maintains the position now of P6 over the Ferrari. But the Ferrari certainly, from what we've seen previously, is not going to give this up lying down. By the way, whilst we're here, you might notice everyone is listed as an AM red number boarded driver. I'm not sure why. It's probably an entry-less issue. We'll try to fix it for the next race, and everyone should be a nice, shiny platinum white boarded driver. But for now, it's quite funny that everyone is just AM here. Although at one point before we fixed the entry list, Daniel Scott was listed as the only pro driver of everyone, which was quite funny. I did tell them to race him quite competitively. Now, where is Daniel Scott? Actually, I've only just noticed he is one of the retirees, which is a shame. Did I receive? Oh, I did receive him, sorry. I did receive a message from him. Daniel Scott, who was the 31 Sky Temp tester, we saw some good fighting from earlier today, had to park the car. He said it was a sliding mess in those kind of temps. Looked at his fuel, saw he had like 25 laps to go in the stint and just had enough. Fair enough. I know he joined the session quite late. Did not join the event. Joined the season quite late and did not have much time to set up or practice. And hopefully he'll be back for Suzuka, which will certainly be a fun race, I'm sure. With the battling we've seen today at a track like Suzuka, we should have a good fight ahead of us. Meanwhile, Thomas Jack has actually pulled a little bit of time back from Martin Kovacs in P1. Thomas Jack 17.1 seconds to the Honda. Now, with limited race time remaining, there might not be much he can do with any advantage in pace. He currently has the best lap. Thomas Jack has managed to do a 58.412. That is the best lap overall. His last lap was a 59.665, a little bit slower than Kovac's last, but in this lap he is still gaining. Gap now 16.6 seconds. However, this gap here, Ruta has caught up to the back of Krochmaliak. You can see Artemenko has managed to simply gain the advantage. Unfortunate for the Ferrari, but very happy for the Aston Martin. And now the Ferrari has to fend off the Porsche, one of the few glorious racing Porsches that we have with us today and for this season. See through Cops again and up to Magus. We've seen a few people, including one of these cars here, make mistakes here that have led and cost them time. But these two take it a little bit differently from either of them, but quite neat, and the gap still 0.6 seconds as they get on to the hangar straight. Meanwhile, once again, I think we're seeing the same situation. Krochmaliak hasn't dropped off too far from the Ferrari, gap about a second now, as the Ferrari actually, the Aston Martin has a little bit of moment into Vale, which means I think the Ferrari also have to do something about that. The gap's still about a second, but Ruta has gained a little bit from that. 0.2 seconds now is the gap as they come through Abbey and down through Farm. Can we see any moves made into the loop possibly once they get there? It gets good exit out of the village corner. Don't think he had the best exit out of the loop because he was looking for the move a bit too early, but he has the slipstream down to Brooklands. Can the Porsche? He looks to the outside. Defending the inside is the Ferrari, and he doesn't. Not alongside, he's going to try to switch back. It doesn't quite work. It's through Luffield they go, get a good exit run nicely onto that curb. And we're going to try again up to Cobbs. Once we get there, it takes a very, you can see how some of these cars cut that corner onto the old pit straight, which I don't think the actual corner itself has a name. It might be part of the Luffield complex. Because yeah, they cut it so close to the barrier. I saw Robin Moe doing that earlier. It seems very dangerous but very rewarding. But is it worth it? I don't know. But for now, I want to see a good exit from the Porsche if he's got to have any hope of getting the Ferrari up into Stowe. But again, the Ferrari power against Porsche power feels like a very one-sided contest. Although not as one-sided as it used to be with the modern Porsche being a little bit more powerful. So that is my understanding, but Krochmaliak still within about that 1 second gap of Artemenko. Artemenko is not running away with P6. It's actually lost again through the Vale chicane. He lost time again, but Krochmaliak didn't have to react this time, and thus has managed to drop that gap to 0.5 seconds. Ruta, meanwhile, 0.6 seconds. Once again, having to back off a little bit through the Vale chicane. And this once again seems to be becoming a three-way fight. And I've only just realized how many times I said once again. So once again, into the loop now. Can we see a good exit from any of these two fighting cars? And we'll see if there's any defense into Brooklands. I think Artemenko just has the advantage. Looking to the inside a little bit is the Porsche. The Porsche does not have it there. He's far too far behind, but a very deep entry there from the Aston Martin. These cars are practically within touching distance. As we cross the line for what for these cars is the 44th time. Artemenko drawn that gap out to 0.6 out of Luffield. Oh, very wide from the Porsche there. That might be a track limits warning, possibly a no time gained. Don't want to do that too often and risk getting a penalty. As someone who in a previous season of RP Series has gotten a late race drive-through in that corner. You do not want to have that feeling after what has been 90 minutes of racing to suddenly catch yourself with a 30-second, effectively a 30-second penalty for track limits. At least it becomes a 30-second if you do not serve it before the checkered flag, although I think they would have to serve before the checkered flag if there's more than 3 laps remaining still in this race. We should end this race about 47, 48 laps for the leaders. Thomas Jack, meanwhile, has clawed a little bit further. He's now 14 seconds to the car in front. There is the leader, Kovac. However, I do believe that that may be Kovac managing well, knowing he has the gap, and, well, let's put it simply, kind of Verstappening his way to the victory. Or at least Verstappening his way, as Verstappen would have a few months ago. More recent races seem less likely, but Kovac just managing nicely and keeping himself tidy. Again into Brooklands. The different cars just have a different way of taking it. It goes deep, does Maliak, but that seems to have been to his advantage into Luffield. Ruta now farther behind than he was before. 0.3 seconds is between them all. You can see the Ferrari loses something on the straight there to the other 2 cars, possibly not as good on acceleration on what is a relatively short straight. The Beach Team car now once again a little bit further ahead, but the Porsche forced to back off through Maggots. Now through Beckett's and Chapel to come. I am also keeping an eye, whilst I can, on that Victor Borling gap to Leon Vessels, which is currently 3.5 seconds. I think they will be hoping that that can be reduced in the next few minutes for a chance at that P3 that they will so want after that formation lap issue for that number 3 car. Number 3 was scheduled to start 3 and almost is once again P3. But Leon Vessels, who himself was originally scheduled to start P20, started P19, now up to P3 himself, and will certainly not give it up without a fight, as again a little bit of a wider exit from the Ferrari as we come back down to the Wellington Straight. We've seen this many times before now. Can something different happen in the outcome? This is a fantastic looking battle. And once we come to 5 minutes, if anyone is in the chat, for some reason I don't know if the chat is working for me due to my earlier issues. If anyone is in the chat and I can read it, please let me know who you think is your driver of the day. I certainly have my opinions of driver of the day, as Ruta certainly has been one of those fighting up, but I think if I was to say driver of the day at the moment, I'm torn between Leon Vessels and Robin Moe in particular, both for their spectacular charges through the field, and Robin Moe for that spectacular overtake that he made on the outside of the failed chicane. I can't remember who it was on, but it was a memorable one at that, and I might have to edge it out to Robin Moe just for the fact that I have seen that, as Reuter now is up through Stowe. They're still side by side. There's still just a bit of bodywork in it, but out of it, it is the Porsche's advantage, and the Porsche takes P7 from the Ferrari, but has to defend the inside line of Vale. Not that, as we were saying a minute ago, Robin Moe would have too much of an issue with the outside, but Reuter looks to defend. Stanislav looked to try and take advantage, a little bit on the grass there, but he has dropped behind now, and whilst all this is happening, Ardemenko is 1.8 seconds up the road from the Porsche. And certainly that's going to help his race, as there's a very deep into village there was Stanislav in the Ferrari. This is looking as though it is advantage Reuter. I think as the gap continues to grow, he is going to pull away. Now the only question is, will he get back up to Artemenko before the end of this race? And if he does, will that allow Krokmaliuk to come back and once again restart this freeway battle for P6? Come to the last 3 odd minutes of our race, probably 4 depending on when the leader crosses the line. Only a few laps left for these drivers to finalize their positions. Thomas Jack puts in a fast last lap, but only faster than about 2/10 of a 200th of a second over Martin Kovac in P1. I think Thomas Jack certainly at this point of the race has to resign himself to P2. And Leon Vessels has kept the gap to Victor Borlin behind and is sitting quite nicely in P3. Now, there will be post-race interviews after this race, but I think unfortunately they're going to be of the variety that, well, I have not seen too much of these 3 drivers. I've seen a little bit of Leon Vessels fight up the field. Unfortunately, I don't remember too many specifics. And Thomas Jack and Martin Kovac have kind of held their positions from the start of this race quite nicely, and whilst Jack has managed to bring the gap down a little bit more towards the end of this race, the only question I really have to ask Martin Kovac is how much of that is purely due to just managing and trying to keep that Honda together, knowing that you have that gap to play with. You're having built the gap already, it's obviously there then for you to use, and I think that might be what has happened here. As for what will be the final time before the end of this race, Martin Kovac comes up to cross the start-finish. 49 laps he has done. We will finish this race on exactly 50 laps for the leaders. That is not intended, but it is quite satisfying to see, as we have 1 minute left on the clock, and then a further 56, 57 odd seconds, I think, once we get there, for Kovac to finish his lap and take the race win. The 3 leaders, the 3 podium sitters right now, all of whom are solo drivers, all be said to put on a fantastic race, as has the 3 car and most of the cars. I think all of the cars in the top 10 at least are very well deserving of their positions. Victor Borlin and Robin Moe, who cut their way, or Robin Moe in particular, who cut his way through the field. Victor Borlin, who then managed to hang on to that, even if they did seem to lose the position in the pit stop. This is going to be the last battle on track. Now these two, by virtue, as the 75 car of, I think that's Sorensen, has a little yellow flag in Magnussen Beckett. Now these 3 cars have been fighting each other. Reuter's going to be very happy about this. He is P7 fighting 0.5 seconds behind Artemenko, as has been the case between him, Reuter, and Krokmaliuk for some time. However, as you can see, Martin Kovac is in, or coming up to Luffield now. they will have this other lap to continue and continue their fight. Now I'll go back to it, but I just want to watch this across the line. You see your race leader by 12.4 seconds, Mr. Martin Kovac. He puts his hazard on to say a little bit of victory celebration. He has your race winner, Martin Kovac, in the Castro Honda Racing Honda NSX. The Hungarian driver becomes the first winner of the Endurance Summer Cup 2024, as Thomas Jack also then takes P2. And Leon Vessels is currently coming up to, he's just rounded Aintree and he's got a back marker, and you can see behind him is Victor Borlin, but I don't think there's enough room, and there's now going to be a back marker between them, and Victor Borlin is going to have to reserve himself with 4th place. The battle for P7 I'm just keeping an eye on is not looking to be any particular gaining, having finished the race and now a number of cars, and Leon Vessels comes across the line for P3 and Victor Borlin for P4. Pascal Reuter then, let's have a look. They come to Aintree, that's a weird way to say that, but they're coming to it anyway, and Artemenko 5.5 seconds down the road, barely a hair's breadth in it on the last lap. Can anything happen in Luffield for Reuter's advantage? I don't know if it can. 0.4 seconds is the gap, and I think with that corner it is all over in this battle. But that's going to be good points on the boards for both of these teams, as Artemenko finishes P6, Reuter P7, Krokmaliuk P8. And we wait for the final driver to cross the line, the 911 car, the Porsche of Nathan Cartwright, who will not be too happy with some of the places that they have lost since being further up the order a few laps ago, or 10 odd laps ago, but should definitely be proud of the battle that they have put on today. Session has ended, and I will quickly head over to the channel to invite drivers to come and speak to me, your top 3 podium, for the podium interviews. I have invited our top 3 to attend the waiting room to give us a little rundown on their respective races. And already in there, and I'm going to apologise to Leon Vessels, who has just joined him and probably talking about the race. I'm going to drag him in. Martin Kovac, your race winner. Hello, Kovac.
Hello.
Congratulations, first off.
Thank
First winner of the 100 minutes of Silverstone. First winner of the Endurance Summer Cup. How was that race for you?
Not so easy as it would seem. I had problems with the car, a lot of them actually. I had tire issues, most of them. Yeah, mostly tire issues. So I was trying to minimize the time loss.
So you pulled out a 20-second gap by the end of the first stint. I think the gap itself was pretty reasonable early on, but as Tom wore his tyres off a bit himself, being in the Mustang, the gap had increased to 20 seconds. How much did that play into your mind? How much of your second stint was kind of just thinking, look, I don't have to be too fast here because I have a gap to play with?
To be fair, I still thought that I need to push, but when I saw that I had 20 seconds and it was 45 minutes remaining, I think, I didn't think of it that much. I just thought that he won't catch me with that gap if I'm being consistent, so I didn't worry that much.
Fair enough. Is there any other points of the race? Because obviously, unfortunately, due to your dominance of the race, let's say, even if it wasn't the easiest thing in the world, we didn't catch too much of it. Is there anything that happened? Any back marker stories you want to tell? Any incidents that perhaps we missed?
Not really. The back markers were really, really courteous. They let me through in at least one or two corners. I had some itchy slides that I had to catch, but other than that, it was just a consistent race pace, and then yeah.
I think saying you had some slides you had to catch can just be summarized by saying I drove the Honda.
Yeah, you could say so.
Well, finally any thoughts about Suzuka? Are you looking forward to it? Any challenges you'll think? I mean, I believe it's higher tire wear than here, so you might have some struggles with tires again.
We'll see. I think the setup wasn't the best for Silverstone. It could have been better. I think Suzuka will be the same. I think I'm gonna be at the top somewhere, maybe not winning the race.
Who's your money on then? Who do you think? Tom or maybe Robin and Victor?
Uh, there are a lot of Porsches. There are Mo and Borlin in the McLaren, so that's gonna be really fast. Uh, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Somewhere between the two of them.
you have been thanked by Tom in the chat, or you've been congratulated. Oh, sorry, actually, no, you haven't been congratulated. So I'm sure you will. We can actually hear his furious typing as he is responding to Tom being his traditional
Uh,
Tom cheekiness. Well,
uh,
congratulations to you, and I look forward to seeing you next race out, and hopefully, for you at least, you might actually be pleasantly surprised by the Honda.
yes, we'll see.
Right, cheers, thank you for joining me, and
Thank you.
congratulations again. That was Kovac, your P1 of this race. Now I'm going to be joined by Thomas Jack, your P2 sitter in the Mustang small hype beast car. Hello, Tom.
Hola, señor.
Congratulations on P2.
Thank you.
It looked like a comfortable P2.
In what sense comfortable?
Well, you were P2 and you kind of just stayed there. How was the race for you?
It was tiring. My wrists were not happy. I'll gladly hear any tips on how to drain the puddle of sweat in the bottom of my seat. But other than that, it was interesting. I went for, I think, a bit of a different strategy to Kovacs, which didn't pan out in the end. I went for like a full tank of fuel to go as deep as I could on the first stint, and just in case it rained, I would have been able to sort of cover that. It ended up not raining, and then I just sort of had to do my best to catch up to him on the second stint. But I mean, the gap was too big.
Well, you certainly managed to close the gap a little bit on that second stint. I mean, Kovac just spoke to me about having troubles with tyre management. How was that on your end? Any particular?
I'm surprised because his pace seemed to hold on to his seems to hold on a lot better than me. I could keep up at the start, but I quickly ran out of tires and completely dropped off the back of him. And then the second stint, I mean, it was only a 30-minute stint, so it's not like tire wear really has time to sort of kicking.
Well, do you have any expectations for next race out at Suzuka? Do you think you'll be strong there? Kovac is not certain. He thinks that he will be down the order for that, especially compared to some of the Porsches around here, he said.
I need to test it because I don't know how it drives there yet. I've never driven the car there, but if it drives anything like it does in Silverstone, it's gonna be a bit of a struggle because I was braking for corners that are usually only lift this race. So I hope I can fix that for Suzuka.
Well, I'm sure if anyone can, I'm sure you'll be able to do something interesting with the car. But until then, congratulations on your P2. First P2 of the Summer Cup, the Endurance Summer Cup.
Thank you.
So, and I'll see you next time out.
Sounds Gucci gang.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
That was P2, Thomas Jack. I'm just sending a quick message to Leon Vessels, as he was in the interview waiting room, but I think he left it. Just to say, it's still open if he wants to. If not, otherwise, then I will begin the wind down of the stream. But I think that was a rather pleasant race from my end. I quite enjoyed watching some people who I have not obviously seen before, people that are less regulars at Racing Pals, competing quite nicely. We had a good battle there for P6. And quite a lot to be watching. I feel a bit sorry for those who had some technical issues and who may have had some issues with driver swaps. It's unfortunate, but it does happen on occasion. It's the closest thing that we often get in sim racing to any sort of technical malfunction. As the session restarts and the 4 people that are still in the server remain. I'm going to give it a couple of seconds, and if Vessels has not rejoined the interview waiting room, then we shall simply say once again, whilst they're waiting for them, you know, they had a fantastic drive. They're certainly one of the 2 contenders for my drivers of the day, along with Robin Moe. Both of whom started at the back of the grid and who worked their way up all the way to podium position for one and P4 for the other. And it's a very good drive from both. And I have to again also give some credit to Victor Borlin. It feels a bit bad that I'm giving so much credit to Robin Moe and not to Victor Borlin, but obviously Victor was in a position that Moe had managed to work his way up to, and he maintained that position very well. The reason why they lost P3 to P4 was essentially because they had lost it through the pit cycle to Leon Vessels, who had just managed to out-strategize them by the looks of it. And I was hoping to ask that to Leon Vessels. Unfortunately, it sounds like I'm not going to get the opportunity, as he has not yet rejoined the waiting room, which is a shame. Well, in that case, I am going to simply say a thank you to everyone who has joined us today for this race. A thank you to everyone who has been watching along and who will, obviously, you probably will already have turned off by this point, but those who will be watching their own races back tomorrow or later on today. And I will say it has been a very nice race. Be sure to join us for the next race out in 2 weeks' time. It will be, as we have mentioned, at Suzuka. And that will be on the 4th of August. A Sunday once again. Practice will start at the same time, which will be 6 o'clock UK time, which is currently British Standard Time, not British Standard Time, British Summer Time even. And I will switch back to this because I do actually want to quickly get the calendar up. Just a sec. Here is our calendar for anyone who hasn't yet seen it. If you want to join, you can find us on SimGrid by searching for Racing Pals. You can join our Discord through the link in the video description. That is the word. You can, and if you're interested in supporting us, supporting our races, you can sign up to our Patreon, which can be found again in the link to our description. It helps us to pay for servers and for races, and perhaps even in the future for a few more things that we have as a possibility. This is then our calendar, as you should be able to see on the screen. Silverstone, which just happened. Martin Kovac, your race winner, 100 minutes. Next race is Suzuka, where we are going for a 2-hour race at the Japanese circuit on the 4th of August. On the 18th of August then, we will be heading to Bathurst for a 96-minute race, which is looking to be quite interesting in terms of format and rule set. And then we will be finishing off with a 2.4 hours of the Nordschleife on the 1st of September, which hopefully will both be a very good race and a good chance to have a little re-go at our 4 hours of Nordschleife, which was very successful, and we managed to get going even after Kunos had decided that their servers would be down on that day. But until then, again, a thank you then to our patrons who helped support us. I believe that might need to be updated. I apologise, but I will give them a personal shout out because I believe there is one that needs updating. So let me do a personal shout out just so we can make sure. I want to have a personal shout out to, once I found him, David, our resident, New Vegas resident, as he has become known in the community, also known as Kooky Technologies, who is also one of our partners, well as Pierre Moreno, who is one of our directors. But thanks to all of those who support what we do and support us in allowing us to bring racing to you, to everyone who races with us. I thank you. And whilst my mouse has decided to go off of my screen, so I can't do anything right now for some reason. There we go. I thank you all for joining me, and I will finally end this stream now that it will let me. So again, thanks for all to join me. Congratulations to our winner, our podium sitters, and to everyone else who competed with us. And I look forward to seeing them all, and hopefully seeing you out next time at Suzuka. Good night.